Welcome to the Leadership Wellness Circle podcast, a curated space for powerhouse women leaders, founders, and executives who are done choosing between their ambition and their well-being. I'm your host, Miara Shaw, leadership strategist, confidence cultivator, and for over a decade, a guide helping women leaders create a better work-life integration. Whether you're tuning in between board meetings, headed to connect with family or friends, or taking that well-deserved break, this is your space and your reminder that you can lead well and live well. Ready to bust a move? Let's bam. So Tracie, listen, you and I, when we met, were immediate good friends, similar energy, similar speed. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and all the wonderful things that you do up north.
Up north.
Up north.
Up north. Well, thanks for having me today, Myra. A little bit more about me. I am the Chief Financial and Operations Officer at Kaler Slater. We are a nationally recognized design and architecture firm. We're headquartered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I've been there for almost 5 years now, and just really had the pleasure of being able to sit in the C-suite while guiding the strategic initiatives, growing that organization, and making a lot of efficiency improvements as I've been there. My background is very diversified. So I like to say I grew up in manufacturing. I could cost glue if you'd like me to. I can do all those awesome things. But ultimately, I've been in the technology space. I've also been in the advertising and experiential marketing space, and now architecture. And ultimately, really, that diversity has enabled me to become the leader I am today.
I love it. Listen, that is a diverse background of all of the things. And I love that, and this is definitely a myth in my mind that you think when you meet folks that are on the money side of the business, that they're very stiff, very, like not definitely not the space that you operate in. And I think that, you and I, the board we worked with was for young girls. Young women seeing those examples of not the traditional, not whatever the myths are, really opens their eyes to say, oh, well, maybe I could do that. Maybe that's something that I could lean into. So let's dig into this a little bit. I know you know what a high performing woman is in work-life integration, being a wife, a mom, a C-suite executive, all of those things. How can something like mom shaming, and I want you to define what that means to you, really affect a woman's confidence, her leadership, and how she's integrating work and family when she's kind of carrying that because it really is a heavy weight. If you're affected by that, it is something that's heavy that you're carrying. How do you relate to that, and what does that mean to you?
It's a good question. And I find mom shame coming from other women, unfortunately, which I don't know if it's intentional. So I think, most people operate with the best of intentions. So for me personally, in order to do all of those things, I think society has said women can do it all. You can bring home bacon and cook it up in a pan and, bring home a paycheck, and then, never let your man forget he's a man, or your partner forget they're your partner, right? At the end of the
Right.
day, um, that's an unreasonable expectation for anyone. And for me, mom shame over the years has looked different. I did have a child when I was 20 years old. And so, he is full-fledged adult now. And I was young. I was a young mom. And there was a lot of judgment around that. And for me personally, at that age, I think, it was a lot of talking to my family about how I have these big aspirations and goals, and help me get through it and help me figure out that path. And now, as I'm in the C-suite, I am a wife, I have 2 little kids, and The shame looks a little bit different in that my husband is ultimately a huge reason why I'm able to have the career I have. And when we got married, I made it very clear I'm not doing everything. And, there has to be more equality into this marriage. And, you work and I work. I am the breadwinner, and that means something. And so I do have events and longer hours and more responsibility around my job. And so ultimately, the mom shame comes in. I'll give you a great story just that happened recently. Both of my kids are in sports, and I'm not always able to make every
Yeah.
game. And I think that for me, I don't have to make every game. When I'm there, my kids know. They know I'm there. They appreciate I'm there. They love it. And they know if I'm not, I'm cheering them from afar, right? But I had to drop my one of my kids off at a soccer game, and we were running a few minutes late. And so I just dropped him off, and he got out of the car and went into the arena. I parked the car and came in, and another mom said to me, "Oh, I saw Aaron, and I thought you just dropped him off and that you weren't coming to the game today because, I never really see you." And
Wow.
yeah, the tone felt a little bit like, okay, like, that's weird. And I smiled and I said, I am here. So yeah, I'm not dropping my kid off and leaving them at the game to go do something else. Um, so that's one example that just happened recently. And again, I find that I have a ton of respect for all women who do all the jobs, right? They are stay-at-home moms. That's
Hmm.
a hard job and one I certainly don't aspire to do. And that's a different role. And then there's moms who maybe are not the breadwinner of the family or whose job isn't in the C-suite as mine is. And I think that a lot of times we just need to let people be where they're at and not have those moments of judging. Um, and also, you never really know what's going on in somebody's life at that moment to make a comment that felt unnecessary,
Yeah.
especially at the time.
Yeah. That is definitely important. And I think it's like you said, I'm gonna go with the assumption that people are not intentionally trying to be mean. They're just kind of saying something flip at the moment. And
Yeah,
we just that's one of those things we have to be conscious of how things are landing on the person that we're saying something to, right? Now, one of the things you talked about is, dropping your son off and sometimes you can't stay and all these things. Man, I remember I still don't know how all this happened of me being a trader, my husband being a corporate professional at the time, and we were raising four children, all athletes. I don't know how these people got to where they were supposed to be, but it all happened. But
exactly.
one of the key things that I think really helps with this work life integration with high performing women is this communication with your spouse or your partner. How critical is that, right? Because I think that traditionally women still do kind of carry this weight of I'm supposed to be doing all these things. I'm supposed to have the job and come home and cook and miraculously get people dropped off and picked up and all of these things. So how important is that communication with your partner or your spouse that this really is a partnership for our collectively children. They're not just my children, right? And
Exactly.
that's something
Yes.
I think women have to be conscious of to ask for the help also and
I
not just be
agree.
like running around in a crazy circle trying to get it all done by ourselves. What's the importance of that communication with your spouse?
I mean, communication across the board with anyone is of the utmost importance. That is in my job, it is in my home, it's with my friends, it's on the boards I serve, right? And I really believe that when before Chris and I got married, I set the stage saying, we're going to have kids. This is how this has to look. It evolved, right? As children grow. And to your point, now we're in sports and there's a lot going on. Um, My two little kids are 16 months apart, so they're close in age. They're doing a lot of the same things, and it's a trade-off. So, it is very much when they started to get into sports, I said to Chris, so you're going to have to run all that. You're paying the dues. You're going to be the soccer mom. You're going to be on the soccer mom chat. I'm not on any of that stuff, right?
Right.
And he is, and he gets really irritated with the soccer mom chat. But to me, he is the reason why our family is able to function, and that communication and needs ebbs and flows, right? And so the more that I'm talking about and we're communicating about the things we need to do, the better our relationship is.
Yeah.
And to be really honest, I think our kids see something that society isn't necessarily pushing, right?
Yeah.
Society really, and I think part of the shame is my own internal piece is like, I
Right.
am supposed to be doing it all. There are moms who are these super moms. And you know what? I am a super mom. I'm a super C-suite. I'm a super mom. Some days are better than others, right? I'm always giving 100% to it. And at the end of the day, my husband does the laundry. He takes, makes sure kids are ready to go. He's getting them to sports. If I can go, we trade off. Um, I do grocery shopping, I do some cleaning, but ultimately it really is we're meeting each other, and it's not 50-50. We're meeting each other at 100-100, right?
Yeah.
And there are times where it's like, you know, I'm at 20% today. And, he's like, I've got it. I've got the 80. And
Yeah.
I think, that those moments help us to not feel frustrated either at each other. Right.
Yeah.
And we have that balance. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I have learned that the more that we're doing that, the healthier the house is.
Yeah. I think one of the great things for my husband and I, as our children got older, one of the things that I would say to them, because the older they get, they can also be a part of the work life integration, right? I
Right.
think that's an important skill for young people to learn as well. Like it's not just on the parents, if you're 13, that they're figuring out all of your things because then you become 20 and you don't know how to manage yourself, right?
Right.
So one of the things I implemented with our kids was if they had weekend activities, all requests of my time or my husband's time needed to be on the bar by Wednesday night. And if it wasn't on the bar and you came home from school on Friday with all the hype, oh my God, somebody's having a skating party. And I'd be like, look, your lack of planning does not constitute an emergency for me.
Exactly.
So I think it's important that parents and caregivers bring the children into the work life integration process. Again, it just helps with it, but it also teaches them some life skills that they need. Colleges are struggling with freshman students right now. They're having to include like life classes because these students don't know how to get themselves up on time and get to class and do all of it. It's like, well, what have you been doing through your whole high school, right? And a lot of times it's because the parents have taken the work life integration and they managed it for everyone. It's like, well, if your bus leaves at 7 and you're not out there by 7, buddy, our boys have walked to high school. They walked.
I,
I was already at work for one. Like, I didn't even know these tragedies were happening until years later. They're like, oh, mom, yeah, we walked to school. I'm like, all the way to your high school? I'm like, yeah, we missed the bus. I'm like, good job. And good
yeah.
job for not calling me to tell me you missed the bus and what, like, they didn't even want to hear that sermon. So the best thing for them to do was walk.
Yeah. I feel like for me, that started with even my oldest child at a very young age. Parent teacher conferences. That's not about me. That's about you. And you need to come and hear the feedback
Oh,
and take
nice.
action on that feedback. I am still one of the few parents who has their child sit in the parent teacher conference. And I'm adamant that this is not my review. This is your review, and you need to hear the feedback, good, bad, or otherwise, and take action appropriately. We also certainly a big thing with homework, right? Oh, and the homework and the complaining about doing homework. And, there are some days, some weeks on a Sunday where it's late and, they're complaining about doing homework. And my response is, listen, I've done sixth grade already. So you can do it again or you can do your homework. I mean, you have to get to a point where the accountability is where it belongs. And I try
Yeah.
to start that very, very young, even in 4K. They go to their conferences. That's a must. It's
I
mandatory.
love that strategy. I've never heard a parent say that, but it makes sense. This is not my review. It's
Mm-hmm.
yours. Like,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. I love that. All right, moms, you heard it from Tracie. She's already implementing it, so we know it works, right? You have a real case example. Let's talk about confidence in regard to, like, we're talking about work-life integration, and we know that's a process that is not always smooth. It,
Mm.
like, Monday might not look like Tuesday, and Friday might be a disaster with all of it, right? What happens, or how do you handle those confidence dips? That's what I call them, when you're like, man, I was on a roll, or I had this plan, I thought it was going to all work well, and then something just falls apart. Like, some days it just doesn't work. How do you handle those confidence dips? And what are a few tips you can share with other working moms or stay home moms that, okay, when this doesn't work, you get this confidence dip, here are a few ways to just get back on, give yourself grace and get back on track. If you're thinking, I need this, but I don't know where to start, the Leadership Wellness Circle membership has open enrollment in October and November for women just like you, ready to stop choosing between success and their well being. This is your invitation to finally lead well and live well. Details at leadershipwellnesscircle.com.
It's a good question. I think if I have a confidence tip, Myra, it is because I have been too overly confident and it's humbling and it checks my ego.
Okay.
And so for me, a lot of what I see in myself, I don't even think it's imposter syndrome or like a confidence check anymore. I actually feel like it's a moment to pause and say, okay, that didn't work. Or, right, I'm in a situation and I'm feeling a little bit over my head. Um, Number one, I don't have to know it all. I don't have to have all the answers. And I think giving myself that alone is grace, right? And
Yeah.
saying, um, hey, let's talk about the situation, whether it be work or home or children. I certainly do not have all the answers, nor do I aspire to be. And I find that those confidence checks and dips can be that moment to say, it's a moment of reflection.
Yeah.
Was I being maybe too much of a lion? Was I a little too, was my ego not in the right spot? Was I leading with integrity? Was I really leading with what I value and were my actions appropriate? And so I think it's always okay to have that.
Yeah.
And when you do, it's humbling, right? And those moments you're going to learn more than if you're boosting yourself up and your confidence is raging 100,000% all the time. And so to take those moments as reflection points, learning moments, and being willing to talk about them too. For me, especially at work, if there is something that isn't going well, there's always a pivot and there's always another way. And to find that moment, you may not do that alone. And so that collaborative conversation becomes even more and more and more important as you grow. As a leader, I would say, one of my big things is and how I lead my team in particular is if you see something, say something. So but come to me with a recommendation. And it's not, I have to hire 14 people. Yeah, okay, that sounds like a great plan. How are we going to do that in this overwhelming feeling that people can come to you with as a leader? And I think at that point I go, what's your, 3, 2, 1, 3 solutions. two options and then your one recommendation, ultimately really boiling it down to you look at I'm empowering you to solve it. I'm empowering you to come to me with solutions and how can I support you? I'm not going to have the answers, nor is it my job to solve everything. My job is, and I say this with all the respect for those who are on my team, my job is to hire the smartest people. And you go and you do your job and deal with the day-to-day and the tasks that are in front of you. Unfortunately, as a C-suite, my job are the things you can't solve and the really hard topics. And it's those are the things that no one else can solve. And that's what comes into the C-suite. And I think when a C-suite executive is really honest about it's lonely, it can be lonely. Work-life integration can be difficult at times. There could be moments of just feeling like, wow, we are responsible for this whole organization and these people's families. It can feel untenable at times. And so for me to have that as my North Star, right, leading with that integrity, living with passion, showing my passion, and also empowering others really brings everything full circle, even into my home life and into my children.
I love that. And I think one of the best things high performing women, especially leaders, can give themselves is grace, right? We
Hmm.
we give it to others more freely than we give it to ourselves, but that we don't have it all figured out. And if the balance or the harmony or the work life integration gets a little off track, well, we have the ability to fix it. Like it's 99.999% of the time not the end of the world. Like the world is still here. Although we've experienced moments where we thought that this is the end, this particular thing is going to end it all. Well, it didn't, right? It didn't. And to keep encouraging yourself and being a part, again, this is one of the reasons why I created the Leadership Wellness Circle, is because more than anything, we need community. We need a safe place to say, I'm feeling way out of whack. I can't even figure out what to do. Can you help me? Can I just tell you what's going on? And you listen. Sometimes we don't even need an answer. Sometimes there is no answer. It's just simply saying, this is the madness that I'm in the middle of right now. And
I
I just want to be able to say it.
I smile because that is something my husband has had to learn. He has had
Yeah.
to learn how to, my partner, my Chris has had to learn that when I'm talking, I'm not looking for the solution. I'm just looking
Yeah.
for the shoulder, right?
Yeah.
And because when you are in the C-suite, you don't your peers are totally different, right?
Yeah.
And you're not sharing with those who are necessarily reporting to you, and ensuring you have that space of someone that can just go, yeah, that's a rough day.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Why don't you go
And
take a
that's
bath?
it.
Why don't you go
That
relax?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have, I think that's part of our spouses. They love us, they care for us, they want to help us get through these barriers that we sometimes face. One of the things I started using with my husband is if it's a moment where I just need to vent and tell you how crazy this person is, because you're going to agree with me. I already know that, right? Of just saying, babe, I'm telling you a story. I'm not looking for a solution. That
Exactly.
way, when I finish, he doesn't go, well, what you need to do, it's like, I didn't need that, sir. Thank you. So I just start that from the beginning because his tendency as his wife, he wants to help me. He wants me to move through something uncomfortable as fast as he can get me to the other side of it. And so if it's just, hey, the thing was all out of kilter. I'm just telling you a story. I'm not looking for an answer. Then he has graciously, you know, abided by what I ask, and he'll go, huh, okay. And I'm
I
like,
know.
that's it? Like, you could give me a little more than that, right? He's like, oh, not touching it. Not touching it, lady.
Yeah.
So
I've
I think
even
that's
I've even had that conversation with our CEOs,
okay.
my peers and my partners, and have said very openly that there are times where, I'm talking through a situation, or whether it be work or personal, because we bring our whole selves to our
Yeah.
work. And I've just been very open that I'm not looking for the solution. I am talking and I just need you to listen right now.
Yeah.
And one of our CEOs says that I've taught him that at work to become a better listener. And that's a moment of pride for me that
Yeah.
even in my job I'm able to vocalize that. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't, right? You're always trying to solve something. You're always trying to find the answer, and it'll get there. The answer will
Yeah.
come, but you got to
Yeah.
talk about it a little bit first, right? Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And even sometimes, as a business strategist coach, sometimes I will say to a person, would you like for me to give you some advice? Because if they don't listen, I don't have to give it, right? But at least opening the door for them to give permission for that. And if they don't want it or feel like they don't need it, then listen, life moves on. Life moves on. I can keep those words and we're all going to be just fine. So
It does. Yeah.
I'm going to switch to our final question. And this one's a little bit fun, but it's as you've navigated your journey as a wife, a mom, a C-suite executive, if your leadership journey were a Netflix series, what would be the title? And what is, doesn't have to be the juiciest, but a juicy plot twist that you faced?
Sure. So the Netflix title, I thought about it a little bit. I think it would be called Revolution.
Okay. That's so fitting. Listen, that's so fitting of you that it would be called Revolution.
And I have to say that the way my childhood and the my life and the reflecting back, I was probably set up to not be where I'm at. You know,
Okay.
um, And so, but I had big goals and big dreams. And, I really was one of the first people to obtain a bachelor's degree with a master's, two master's degrees. And I, have continued up on that path. I've won some really cool awards as far as recognition around, my work. Um, but ultimately, I think I could see you see those pivotal moments where you're choosing a path. And I could see how a different choice would not have led me to where I am today. And so when I think revolution, I think about that continuous like fight and that continuous, I don't know, fire, as you said earlier. That fire is inside of me. And even now, today, sitting in the C suite, I'm not done. I'm not done. And there's more to come and there's more to do. And I don't know exactly what that means 10 years from now, but, we'll figure it out. And setting those goals and continuing to evolve and become is really important for my growth. Um, Juiciest moment and plot twist. I'm going to call it the plot twist
Okay.
because it was definitely, something. Honestly, Myra, you think about your life and maybe some of the worst things that could happen to you or happen in your marriage or happen at work. And when I think about work, probably the worst thing somebody could think of happening to them is they get fired, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't always feel so bad. Like there's times and places, right? And maybe the worst thing you think of would be a divorce or you break up or right, something like that. Well, about a year and a half ago, my husband had some very severe mental health problems. And on Mother's Day in 2023, he tried to take his life and, or was threatening to take his life, let's say that. And, you know, reflecting back on that, that is not a moment I thought I would ever deal with or manage in my marriage. Never thought I would need to manage that with my children, with my work, and how impactful that really, your home and life and work, all of that really does come together, right? And, the first reaction when I spoke with people about what had happened was "Oh, so you're getting divorced." And I thought, wow. Well, no, right? Like, for me, I've made a really large commitment, and leading with integrity and leading with honesty and that passion that I have that for my marriage and for my husband. And as long as he wants to continue on his journey to wellness, I am here, right? And I think about people who said that to me, and I'm like, well, surely you think the easy way out is to leave, but no matter the path you choose, it's never easy, right?
Yeah.
Um, and we've spent a lot of time rebuilding trust and rebuilding our marriage, and it is not the same. It's better, and we've pivoted, and we have better communication, and he's taking care of himself. And alongside of that, making sure I'm taking care of myself, because the two of us coming together ultimately is what makes us strong. Um, it was a hard journey, and I certainly I don't share it often. There was a lot of embarrassment and shame, and thinking like, well, this doesn't happen to somebody who's like me, who is a C-suite executive, who's a really good mom, who by all means from the outside looks really stable, right? We look like this perfect family. And again, it's not. And
Yeah.
we are doing our best, but that certainly was a plot twist in our life and in our marriage. And it was something that, up until Mother's Day, on that day, it had been going on for about 3 years. And, I was very quiet about it, and nobody knew. And I was, busting my hump at work, and climbing the ladder and winning awards, and increasing my earnings and things like that. And, it came to a head on that day. And the plot twist is you continue to move forward. In what direction? Because you're always going
Yeah.
to keep moving, right? And that is inevitable. And you get to
Wow.
choose how you do that.
I love it. Listen, thank you for sharing such an authentic story. And I think the power of that is when women look at other women and say, well, she is a C-suite and she has the kids and the house and the blah, all the things that we can list that we think another person has, right? That the journey still requires things of us that are hard, no matter what level you're at, right? So this work-life integration, work-life harmony, balance, whatever word you want to use with it, it is going to require that you do the work. None of
100%.
us
Like
get the free
everything.
pass where it's just, oh, well, here's a nice, sweet, peaceful path with roses blooming and the sunshine every day. It's just not the path. And I think sharing that helps other people see that, oh, wow, like that happened to her, that we can, it's not to find uh tap on the back for ourselves in someone else's pain, but just to realize human to human, we all have some things that are difficult that we're going to have to press through. So that that I hope really encourages some woman who's stay home mom, a C-suite executive, a founder, wherever you are in your journey, that keep showing up and doing your work every day. Some days it's darker than the others. Some days the clouds are there. Some days the sun is shining and it's beautiful. But either way, the work has to keep continuing. So this podcast really is created as a sanctuary for high achieving women leaders, founders, and executives who refuse to choose between success and their well being. And you've given us a great example of not choosing. Like, I can have both of these. I can have a great career, but I can also have a family life that's not in complete chaos and falling apart. So, thank you for sharing such, again, authentic story. I knew our conversation would be on fire, and sharing real things, right? This is what other women need. We don't need stories of, oh, I have it all figured out and it's all great and everything's perfect. No, I don't think anybody believes that at this point, right? So
Well,
let
if they
let
do, Myra, I hope they hear your podcast and understand that, oh, a lot of that can be a fallacy, and it's okay. It's okay to
yeah,
not have it figured out.
yeah, yeah. Real stories from real women. That's completely what it's about. So let our audience know, Tracie, how they can connect with you, follow you, and uh, keep following just such an amazing journey. I'm super proud and happy to have met you. I'm not in the corporate space anymore, but anytime I see another LinkedIn post with she got an award, she got this, I'm like, that's my girl. That's what's up.
Well, that's how I feel about you, Myra. So,
Thank you.
I mean, I'm honored to have been asked to do this with you. And yeah, our friendship, fast friends right away. And, I love continue watching you succeed and grow in your space and in everything you're doing. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way. Tracie Parent. And if you want to connect, hit that connect button. I'm always willing to network, no matter where you live. In today's world, we can find ways to have a good coffee chat, even if it's virtual.
Excellent. Thank you again, Tracie, for joining us and again sharing such an authentic story with our audience today. And we look forward to staying connected with you.
Thank you for having me, Myra.
And that's how we bust a move here at the Leadership Wellness Circle podcast. I hope something in this conversation gave you permission to pause, power up, or pivot with purpose. Be sure and subscribe for more strategies that help you lead well and live well. For additional resources, visit leadershipwellnesscircle.com. Until next time, Mavens, keep making your best moves.